Hello, hello. Just getting finished setting up here. Hope you're all having a wonderful afternoon or evening or whatever the case may be. So yeah, the plan is, as I mentioned in my post and in the description to this stream, that we're going to be doubling up on our serial killers. We're going to be also digging into Jeffrey Dahmer a little bit to go with our, just checking the live stream, working, to go with our Israel Keys theme. Hi, Marissa. It's a pleasure to see you. Yeah, so this should be fun. I just kind of wanted a little bit of a diversion because I've been deep in the Israel Keys wormhole, and along with Israel Keys, I've been inundated with John Douglas, the FBI profiler, who I find to be almost as noxious of a personality as Israel Keys. He's a very egomaniacal dude, and I've read the book before back in the day, Mindhunter, and the reason why John Douglas figures into all this, my copy was in a flood, so it's like trash, but is that he wrote this book Mindhunter in 1995 that describes the formation of the modern FBI behavioral profiling unit, which Douglas was a part of. And it was apparently Keyes' favorite book. It's mentioned as such in American Predator, the Maureen Callahan book about Keyes. So I've been researching the book to make a video about how this figures into the case and why it was significant to Keyes. And I've got like tons of good material and notes. And so I'm hoping that video should be out, I don't know, in a week or so, depending on how things go. But it's been a struggle to get through it, and so I decided to maybe I'll try the audio version, and there's no respite there because John Douglas actually narrates it, and he's just as annoying on audio. It may seem sort of out of pocket if you haven't read the book, but it'll make sense when you see the video because every story is about how great he is and how much everybody loves him. All right, so let's get into this. I wanted to start with the interview of Patrick Kennedy, the detective that talked to Jeffrey Dahmer after he was arrested and elicited the confession from Dahmer. And Kennedy was like a really interesting cop who there's not a ton of material out there on. He's done a few interviews here and there and participated in a documentary, a sort of weird indie documentary called Jeff. But there's not a ton of great interview stuff out there from him. And there's this 40-minute interview that he did back when the documentary Jeff came out on Opie and Anthony, which is a sort of morning shock jock show, but it actually had some great stuff on it because they had a lot of great comics in there, like Patrice O'Neill, Bill Burr, all those kind of guys back in the day. But this is an interview with Patrick Kennedy and the filmmaker of the documentary. The filmmaker barely talks, though, so that's actually a plus. Excuse me. Okay, let's get into it.
Our guests are here, so we got a break.
Oh,
who's coming in, Jimmy?
I should mention this is audio only, so not a ton of fancy visuals on the stream, but the material is excellent.
You saw the documentary.
I
liked it very much.
Patrick Kennedy,
yes,
and James Thompson.
From
James Thompson. Yes.
I think Chris did the documentary, but Patrick was the detective that actually, after Dahmer was arrested, he actually sat with Dahmer and I believe got the confession and really spoke to him extensively.
Okay.
Before he was, known by everyone. So he actually, it's very, very interesting to hear him talk.
Right. You could just tell who the cop is by the name.
Yeah.
Detective Patrick Kennedy.
Yeah.
Nice
he sounds
Irish
like a
guy,
cop, right?
Nice Irish cop.
Who got the confession? Pat Kennedy.
Kennedy did.
Pat did.
Hey, Kennedy got it again.
Yeah.
Of
yeah.
course.
Pat Kennedy.
MRSA, it's kind of confusing because it used to be named something else, but its current version is called Jeff, just Jeff. But it was called something else. Like I can find that out here in a second. But yeah, I believe the current version is called Jeff. It was like a very small documentary. I've watched it before. It's interesting, but like sort of not the greatest doc. It's just sort of weird because it has all these sort of interstitial live action scenes where they have an actor playing Jeff. That it's kind of a bizarre doc, but it has Patrick Kennedy, this guy who didn't talk a lot. So that's one of its main benefits, main pluses.
Fuck around. Yeah, but it was really, really interesting to hear him discuss this, relationship with Dahmer.
Yeah.
We'll talk to them next. Might have run out of time for today because we have a Scott and Todd song parody we were going to do today. And we'll just mention it. Dan Marino has a love child.
What?
Cool.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a couple weird like news bits here at the beginning, but it gets right into the documentary or
Love
the
child.
interview.
Love child.
Misunderstood?
Yes. Something like
Afraid?
that.
Ashamed? Misunderstood?
Yes.
Something like that.
That type of love child.
Oh, you're actually going with a thematic song intro for this segment.
What's the theme?
Psycho Killer.
Ah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You look like a cop. Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, there's no question who the cop is.
We
of
can
these
figure
guys.
out which one is the cop and which one is the documentary
That's
filmmaker. Holy retired.
detective. Yes.
Thank you for your service.
Yes.
He still carries a gun.
Hi, guys.
Indeed.
Just these pythons.
Wow, look at
Oh.
that,
Gentlemen,
look at that mustache.
please.
I know that.
How long
is a
have you
good
had the
one.
mustache?
59 years.
Yeah, you're one of those guys, right? You're one of those guys who refuses to shave it.
I've shaved it a couple times with my wife. Are we on the?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
we are.
Isn't that amazing? We just start the show
Yeah,
like
we'll do
I
all the
shaved
other
it
stuff
few
in a
times
minute.
When my wife wanted to feel like she was with somebody else.
that. Oh, there you go.
He's gonna talk
Mostly
shit about
I
his
put it-
wife, and he had to ask you guys, and then he's gonna anyway.
Yeah, we're only here. Wait a minute. That would fit in great also during the gritty 70s and 80s.
Right.
Something like that, right?
Very impressive.
Yes.
That's a big mustache. That
Yeah,
might be the
that's
biggest
great, man.
mustache
Hey,
I've
I like
ever
the
it.
first time
seen.
I saw the movie,
Yeah.
was down at South by Southwest. I didn't watch it. And
Right.
It was on like a 50-foot screen.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
you
a
know
lot.
what it's like to hear yourself or to
Yeah.
see yourself.
Yeah, we
All
love
of a
it.
sudden, I saw
We love our
like
voices.
this 50-foot mustache.
Yeah, that's a
I'm
lot
gonna go
of
home and trim my mustache.
Nah, it's a good look for you.
it works. It works.
I just want to, Mercer, I just wanted to mention I just posted the link to the IMDb of the documentary, and it was previously called whatever it was, like the Dahmer Files or something like that. I have seen My Friend Dahmer, and I actually am a huge fan of the graphic novelist Durf, who wrote the graphic novel. I think it's a movie is based on, and it's excellent. It's an amazing piece of work, and I would highly recommend it if anybody hasn't checked that out. I'm seeing. Let's see here. Yeah, that's what actually made me think of it. Sorry, I have to change screens to see the name on this. Benton is. I was recently listening to the interview that Jim Norton, who has a new podcast, Jim Norton Can't Save You, did with Ron Bennington, who's an amazing old school radio guy, and that's what brought it to front of mind. Thanks for mentioning that, Benton. Yeah, and so I was like, man, this would just be really cool to check out. So that is what inspired it.
Big giant of a guy too. Fuck. How
Yeah.
tall are you?
I used to be 6'7.5", but after my knee operation, I think I'm only 6'7".
Oh, wow.
Lost a little bit.
You don't realize that when you're watching a
coming
guy,
out of Milwaukee.
Oh, Jesus. No, you're right.
guy sitting there being interviewed. Like I watched the documentary. It's like you don't realize like you're a big imposing
Yeah.
figure.
Boy, you must have had a ball before these cameras and everything that law enforcement has to deal with now. Oh, boy, I bet you
Wait.
could tell a spin a yarn or two.
We know some of the old school guys.
Oh, I love
so
talking
you don't
the
have
old
to say
school.
anything. We know.
Old
We know
school
you've seen some
detectives.
stuff.
Evil.
Yeah.
They're evil.
Some of the stuff that might have been not quite on the books. You learn that from the streets. Yeah, sometimes, you know what? You don't even have to take the perp back to the station house. I can just deal with them. A little street justice. A little wood shampoo, they call it, right? Yeah.
In a sense, like the way that these guys are buttering up Kennedy is almost like an interview technique that John Douglas or some profiler would tell you about. You know, you want to establish like a rapport. That's like step one of the whole process of interviewing people. So there's a little bit of a little bit of a run up here, but once Kennedy gets rolling, it's amazing. And one of the real shames is that this interview is not longer than 40 minutes because they had to go to some TV appearance because they really get clicking here, and they have a great chemistry between the hosts and Kennedy.
You get more with honey than vinegar, but yeah, a lot of times you let the guy go because they were useful to you later on.
There you go. Exactly. God, I love the old school guys.
God, they had to play it. They knew how to play in the streets, huh?
Wow. Yeah. How did you stumble onto becoming a part of the Dahmer case? Like you were just a regular working detective.
Right. The way they run it in Milwaukee is they just have the homicide units, and the next stiff up that you get it. So I walked in. I was third shift. I walked in that morning.
Is that what they call it? The next stiff up?
Well, next we used to have a saying in Milwaukee that our day begins when yours ends. So, I know it's blue humor.
Gallows humor.
I can see that on a t-shirt.
Humor.
You could sell some t-shirts with that.
Nice. But in Milwaukee, it was it's just the next unit that was up. And my unit was up. I just walked in, and before I could even get to my desk, about 10 to 12 at midnight, the lieutenant called me over and said, I got a couple excited cops on the phone that said they got a head in the refrigerator.
Wow.
And he didn't even really believe it. This guy was Lieutenant Roosevelt Harrell. He was the highest ranking black officer on the department at the time. Milwaukee had gone through a lot of racial problems with the police department. Totally an excellent guy, though. And he said, it sounds like bullshit to me, Pat, but go check it out. So on the way up there, I was with this young Polish kid from the South Side, Mike Dubas, and we were making jokes. And I was like, not lose our head over this investigation. And it was, it just seemed so weird.
Had you met Dahmer at this point yet or no?
No, never met him before.
And I want to ask, just because you look like a young guy, how young were you back then?
20 years ago, I was 38 years old.
Wow.
So I was young. I was a lot younger.
Yeah.
I'll be 59 next month.
So you were on the job for a while by the time you're 38.
I walked the beat for several years and hacked the squad for about 9 years.
Saving the world, full of piss and vinegar.
Well, I was married with 3 kids. I was trying to raise a family.
Oh, okay. Or that.
And it was a solid job with benefits.
All right, or that, whatever.
Health insurance,
I get you.
Stability.
Did you see Q&A with Nick Nolte?
I did.
Oh, I feel like I'm sitting next to Mike Brennan. It makes me so happy. Big guy with a mustache, old school.
So you're making the jokes on the way over. We know you cops like to make jokes because it's
it is
lightens up the mood a little bit.
Personnel, the nurses too are like that.
Yeah.
You got it.
But it was a very hot, sticky night. I know it gets hot here too, but it gets real muggy in Milwaukee too. And it was one of those nights where it didn't drop below like 85 and 100% humidity. And the foyer of this building is a big glass enclosed foyer. And as soon as you walked in there, you could smell the dead body.
Wow.
And I looked at Mike. I said, wow, maybe this ain't going to be bullshit. Actually, I took off my coat then because certain fibrous coats, if you're around real dead body, it'll seep into the clothes.
It's like Chinese food or something where you smell it when you leave the restaurant.
Jesus.
Was he? Were there other people living in that structure?
Oh yeah, it was a 3-story, 36-unit rectangular building.
With people.
Yeah, that's why I asked. They didn't. What?
Well, actually, several people had complained over the months about the smell, and to the building super who I talked to, and when he went to talk to Jeffrey Dahmer about it, he had a 55-gallon fish tank, and he told him that he went to Chicago for the weekend and the power went out on his fish tank and all his fish died, and he left them around there, and that's what was causing the smell. And he actually showed him the plastic garbage barrel that he was using to emulsify people with the muriatic acid. And the guy said, well, just get rid. He said, that's where I put all the fish. And he said, well, just get rid of that.
Oh my God.
So, and actually the night we went in there, very clearly displayed were all kinds of solvents, cleaners, air fresheners, the 57-gallon tank that he had the 4 bodies in. He had by a window in his bedroom with a fan behind it blowing the.
Wow, man, this is some calculated stuff.
Oh yeah, he said that the smell was always a problem. That's.
I was just going because I was double checking on the chronology because I knew that Kennedy had died shortly after this. And somebody in the comments said that this interview aired January 2013, which tracks with the release of the documentary when it was released. And Kennedy died in April of 2013, so only a few months after this, which is super sad. So that's probably one reason why there's not a ton of footage of him is, he probably had retired recently. And, as they get into, or they mentioned earlier in the interview, he's a super tall guy. And I believe, people that are that tall have a pretty dramatically reduced lifespan. But yeah, just a real shame that he's no longer around.
That was what he said.
Just couldn't get rid of that fucking stench.
But how were you guys tipped off that there were heads in this place at this point?
Well, what had happened is his last victim, he had run out of the Halcyon tablets. And Jeffrey Dahmer was an alcoholic. He was always gassed. And he thought he could drink this guy under the table. And he said they put down a bottle of 151 rum. They were both gassed. And he had offered this guy $150 to come home for oral sex and to watch movies and to take some photographs of him, which he was. Let's not forget that everybody who went to his apartment went there willingly.
Right.
He didn't drag nobody there. He mostly offered them money for sex and photographs. Well, he had taken a couple photographs of this guy in his whitey tighties, and then he wanted to get a bondage shot of him. He got the one handcuff on him, but when he tried to put the other handcuff on it, I talked to the guy. I said it just didn't seem right, and I told him, no, I don't want to do that. And Jeff's thought to me was that he had ran out of the Halcyon tablet, so he thought he'd get this guy drunk, and once he got him handcuffed, then he could just
What's a Halcyon tablet?
Halcyon was a very strong sleeping pill that came out in during the Gulf War. If you remember the first Bush, the good Bush, not Shrub, he actually took it because he couldn't get to sleep during and it was a brand new sleeping tablet, and it was marketed that it was the kind of pill that where you didn't just get drowsy, but you took it and you're out for a while. So
would he slip it into their drinks?
Yes. When he knew he was going to kill somebody, he would crush up 5 to 7 of them and had them in a cup.
Man.
So when he brought the guy home, if he knew he was going to kill this guy and keep this guy, the first thing he would do is offer him a drink, and he would pour him a rum and Coke.
Holy shit.
And once you drank that,
you're out.
Why did he get lazy and not have that on hand?
Well, he was one of the first guys to do what we call doctor shopping. He was a third shift worker at the chocolate factory, and he went to several different doctors and told them, I can't sleep at night. And I found this Halcyon. Actually, there was an article in Time magazine about Halcyon in 1991, and that's where he heard about it.
Wow.
So he asked about it, and the article was about Bush taking it. And so he'd ask for it by name, and there were several doctors that gave him pills, but he just ran out of them.
Okay, I got you.
Damn.
So he brings this guy home. He does not have him pilled up, and he said the guy instinct kicked in and said there's something wrong with him.
Well, he didn't want it. He said he just felt weird about it. So when he wouldn't do it, then he and Jeffrey got into a fight. And during the fight, Dahmer picked up a knife and he ran out the apartment, ran down the hall, ran out into the street, and down the block was a couple Milwaukee coppers on a completely different assignment. So here it is, 11:30 at night, 11:15 at night on a hot, muggy night. And this guy pounds on the window. The two cops look at, here's a black male with just whitey-tighty underwears on and handcuffs. And the first thing they thought was, hey, they got on the air and they said, is anybody missing any equipment? Like, it's very embarrassing when a prisoner gets away from you. It ruins your reputation. But when nobody answered, they got out and said, hey, what the fuck's going on? And he said, well, I met this guy and we were fucking around and he wanted to take some pictures and I didn't want to do the bondage and we got in a fight and he pulled a knife on me and I'm out here. And I said, well, do you want to press charges? Let's take it. He goes, no, I really don't want to press charges. I just want this handcuff off. Well, the two coppers got out, but we had Smith & Wesson handcuffs and Dahmer had a different type.
Because he had different.
These kind of details are so fascinating. Like, the whole reason Dahmer didn't get caught during this earlier incident was because he used different handcuffs than the police, a different brand with a different key. I'm just trying to find a paywall removed article version of that Halcyon article in Time. There's another one in the New York Times. If you search for it, you can find it, but it's pretty interesting to go back and read that kind of stuff. I'm a big periodical buff, so I always like to connect the dots like that.
Different handcuff keys.
Shit.
They had to go back to
so
Dahmer's
the key
house.
didn't work.
Oh, God.
So they followed the guy back, knocked on the door. Jeffrey Dahmer opened the door and he was gassed. And they even said to him, look, we don't care what you freaks are doing in there, but just give us the handcuff key. Well, he kind of fumbled around, and like most cops, they just bogarted their way in. And he kind of fumbled around, so they started looking for the key, but there was no key because he always got the handcuffs back by cutting off their hands.
Oh, my God.
Shit.
So
there ain't no key, Ralph. You gotta boot your way out.
Wow. He got them off by cutting off their fucking hands.
So the one officer went into the bedroom and found the top drawer open a little bit, and there was all these Polaroid photographs in there. So he picked up a photograph. He saw the photograph of a dismembered and cut open body.
Wow.
And he told me, he said, the first thing I thought was, where did this guy get these autopsy photographs from? But he said, the more I looked at the photograph, the more I realized the room in the photograph was the room that I was standing in.
Oh, God.
Right
So
on
he
the
said to
fucking
his
movie.
partner in the next room, it was an efficiency apartment, like one main room, a bathroom, and a little bedroom. He said, you better handcuff this guy. And when he said that, all hell broke loose, and there was a big fight. And these were
really?
two big, strong Milwaukee cops, one 6'4", about 220, the other about 6'1", and kind of barrel-chested. The taller guy was kind of a nice guy, but the other guy, I wouldn't call him an assaultive officer, but the kind that would respond in kind. And
how big was Dahmer, by the way?
He was a good-sized man. He was 6'1", about 175 pounds. Good-looking guy. The night that I arrested him, I had to take all his clothes off, so I got to see him buck naked. There wasn't an inch of body fat on the guy. I mean, he was
I hear humans
not
are lean.
a muscular guy, but not unmuscular as well. So yeah, these two officers had a hell of a fight with this guy.
Wow.
When I got there, well, after they finally got him corralled, and like any place, it's not good to fight with the police. So after they finally got him corralled and handcuffed, and they had him handcuffed the way we used to do it, where you hog-tied people, where you would handcuff them behind their back and cuff their legs and put them on their stomach and then cuff your legs to your hands. But, we ended up killing everybody like that.
Man, Patrick Kennedy is like such a great talker on the mic, and it's just such a shame that he didn't do more interviews, because you can tell he was just a natural, funny guy, a natural conversational speaker, and it's easy to see why Dahmer liked talking to him. Dahmer and him sort of developed a bond, as we'll hear. But I always feel like some of the most interesting people are like the people that you don't hear from in the media a lot. It's like just such a glimpse into an interesting fellow that we barely knew.
They found that people that were big or that were under some kind of drugs, a lot of guys died in that
Suffocated in
position.
some way, shape, or form.
So they changed that. Before that, when I first came on, they taught us to choke people out.
Yeah, the chokehold and choke them out.
Some people never came back. So they went from that to this other one, and now they don't do that anymore. But at the time, that was standard. And if you saw a prisoner like that, you knew that some bad shit had happened.
Yeah.
So when I got there, he was bleeding from the mouth and had a massive rug burn from where rolling around on the rug. And these two officers, I mean, one was outside the door. His hair was sticking up. His Sam Brown was to the side. He was all disheveled. It was hot night, so he was dripping with sweat.
Shit.
And I walked up and said, Ralph, what's going on? He goes, go look in the refrigerator.
Oh, wow.
Holy shit.
So then I walked into the apartment, and there was Dahmer on the ground, and he was crying. I mean, he was kind of
knew
whining.
it was over, Johnny.
And the other,
once that fridge door fucking suction sound came,
the bigger officer had his knee in him, and I said to him, I said, Ralph, what is going on? He looked the same. His eyes were real big, and he was sweating. He was wiping his face with a hanky. And I said, what's going on? He goes, just look in the refrigerator. So that's when I went and opened up the refrigerator. And once you opened it up, it was an apartment-sized refrigerator. It was empty on the inside, except on the door, there was condiments, A1 sauce, Lea & Perrins, mustard and ketchup.
Not much
But in the middle, the only thing that was in the middle of this
Right.
refrigerator in the back was an open box of Arm & Hammer baking soda. And I thought, my mom used to do that to kind of freshen them. And a box containing the head of a black male. And it was freshly severed and fresh, and the eyes and the mouth like that.
Wide
When I opened it up, my partner said, I backed up to him and screamed like a girl.
Oh, shit.
I didn't, but I do remember thinking, man, I got to get the fuck out of here. I mean, it was really, I knew I wasn't in danger, but it's so irrational fear to see something like this.
Yes.
And I'd only been working the homicide unit for about a year, so I knew, hey, if you walk out of here, that's the end of your career. But
Right,
so that's how it started.
Wait. You said there were two, though. Where was the other one?
What a great opening salvo there. Just, I can imagine opening a fridge and seeing a head in there and just freaking out, because like you said, it's, I don't know, irrational is a great word, but it's also just so incongruent. Like, you're not expecting to see a human head in a fridge, and yeah, that would be like a startling moment that would send chills through my body that I would remember for the rest of my life for sure. And this next part's really interesting as well, because they sort of double back and try to figure out like when he became aware of the fact that there are all these other heads, it's well known now that were discovered in the apartment. And Patrick, it tells you the progression of that, and it's really fascinating.
The 2 cops?
No, you said there were 2 heads. No.
No, in the refrigerator, just 1 head. Now we found in a little freezer, we found 7 other frozen heads.
Okay.
And we found 3 skulls.
Right.
Yeah. So Pat took Dahmer downtown, and then the medical examiner, who we also interviewed for the film, Dr. Jeffrey Jensen, sort of came in with his guys and started taking out all the rest of the evidence. And that's when the size and the scope of the scene actually came.
I left my partner there. Harrell showed. Well, first I said, don't anybody touch anything.
Yeah.
We got a boss down there, and he said, take him downtown, Pat. So my partner actually got the shittier end of the deal. He spent the next 24 hours, discovering penises and heads and
all in the
skulls,
apartment.
all
where was all that stuff?
It was
in general?
all in there, right?
And
Well,
Pat,
where?
they're telling
Like,
us Pat has 5 minutes because these guys have TV.
What?
Wow.
These guys have TV
Are
to
you
promote.
kidding me?
Yes.
Oh my God. This is
I literally was hoping
fascinating.
you could stay till 10:30.
TV.
They have
I
TV.
love this stuff.
Okay.
Hey, can we stay?
They're telling us
right.
Yeah, luckily they get to stay for like another, like it looks like 25 minutes. They sort of coax him into staying, and I cannot agree more. Marshall Dave, an amazing storyteller.
they have TV.
You got it.
Wow.
This is a really big radio show. You should stay right here. I'm telling you,
Yeah,
right
but
now,
this-
sir.
Oh,
The,
man.
You want people to see this film? You stay right the fuck where you are.
When you met Dahmer, I have to ask you that.
Yeah.
What was the first? How did you actually? You're meeting with him, with this guy who I don't think you understood the scope of what a psycho he was at that moment, right?
No, but I mean, I'd never seen. I mean, I had your run-of-the-mill murder, and I've had my run-of-the-mill interrogation and confession, but this was different from the beginning because, well, first of all, they beat the snot out of him because you just don't fight with the police. So as we were taking him from the apartment to the paddy wagon, he was already, you could see, dejected, and so I decided I would take a kind of a lighter tact with him, and I shook his hand, called him Pat. I went and got a cup of coffee and cigarettes. And the first thing I said to him was, so what can you tell me about that in the refrigerator? And his first statement to me was, you're not going to let him beat me anymore.
Oh,
And
wow.
I said, no one's going to deal with you anymore but me. And I had him in that little 9x11 room. And actually, when I told the cop to take the cuffs off, and the cop said, Pat, you don't want to take the cuffs off this guy because I fought with him and he's no pussy. And I said to him, if we take the cuffs off you, if you promise you behave, I'll get you a coffee and cigarettes and we can relax. And he just shook his head. But the first words he said after they took the cuffs off, the cop said, I'll be right outside the door, Pat. As soon as he closed the door, he said, we're not going to let him hit me anymore. I said,
Oh,
"No."
wow. He really didn't want to get hit anymore.
So
huh?
it was the old good guy, bad guy from the beginning. So I
Wow.
decided to be the good guy.
But you knew
Sure.
Pat that taking the cuffs off you because you're a 6'7" guy, so you weren't worried about him.
Yeah, I wasn't really worried about it. But I mean,
Yeah.
But you never know.
I never interrogated a guy with cuffs on. It's
Right.
just not a good.
Uh-huh.
He didn't want to fuck up his suit. You know?
Yeah. Comfortable. So,
So you take the cuffs off him and you sit with him.
yeah. Then I introduced myself to him, and I said, "I'm the one who's going to be dealing with you on this." I said, "But before we get started, do you smoke, or would you like a cup of coffee?" And he looked up at me and said, "Yeah, I'd like both." So I went, got one, and came back. And when I asked him about the head in the refrigerator, he said, "I don't feel it's in my best interest to talk about that."
Oh.
So I said, "Well, we don't have to talk about it. We can
Right.
talk about other things."
How about the Lee and Perrin? Why don't we start there?
Anthony's so funny on this show. He's sort of an interesting character. He got fired from Sirius a couple years after this for being racist on Twitter, I guess is what the headline would be. And but he sort of made a comeback. He's now on WABC radio in New York, in addition to having a podcast. Yeah, Marshall Dave, we were just talking about that because it's mentioned briefly at the beginning. And Pat Kennedy was a huge guy, 6'7", and unfortunately he died a couple months after this interview, as we mentioned before. Yeah, it's just sad that he's not around anymore because I'm sure he's got lots more great stories, but I'd love to hear him talk about the Dahmer case for forever.
We'll work our way up to the head.
No, he was very. He says, "What's going to happen to me if I don't talk to you?" So I kind of explained to him the booking process, and he seemed to understand it because he had been arrested before for lewd and lascivious. And but then he asked me, "Can I get my own cell?" And I knew then that he knew about the bullpen. If you know about any bullpen, it's just a shithole where everybody and their brothers in there. It's disgusting, and he didn't want to go there. So I could pick up on that right away. I said, "No, it's a Friday night, and the bullpen is
There you
packed."
go.
I said, "There's no way you're going to get a single cell."
Little leverage.
I said, "If you stay here with me, we can talk about," and we did talk about things for about 3.5 hours before he crapped out to me. So
What stuff did you talk about that had nothing
Well,
to
I
do
picked
with?
up that he was an alcoholic, and
Right.
I myself, like most coppers, suffer from old John Barleycorn, and I had my own battles with it. So I was knowledgeable about AA. Kind of 12-stepped him, but we talked for about an hour about religion. He grew up in a very strong Lutheran religious family. We talked about homosexuality. We talked about whether there was a God or not. He loved his family, especially his grandmother. So for about 3.5, and to tell you the truth, if you talk to most homicide detectives, the typical homicide confession takes about 3.5 hours before they start to get into that defeated position and start to tell.
One of the things that's mentioned in some of the Dahmer books and documentaries that you see is that it's believed that I'm pretty sure this is accurate. Is that one of Dahmer's first killing happened, I think, at his grandma's house, but if not, there was a couple killings when he was younger that happened there, and the denial in his family was so strong. Like at some point, like some remains were found, and he said that they were like animal remains, and Dahmer had this weird sort of typical serial killer quirk of like dissolving animal remains when he was younger. His father was a chemist. There's all sorts of weird stuff about the family and like how much they knew and how much they just sort of like put in the back of their minds and just were in deep denial. And I think one of the things that's sort of clear if you get into studying the human condition is that the power of denial in families is like endless. And so to me, that's believable, but just also really sad.
Tell you what happened. So it was right about that. But every time when he finally did, he said, if I tell you.
Yeah, I actually think you're probably right, Marissa. I wasn't quite sure on the chronology of that, but I do believe that there was a couple other like early killings in the series that were at the Grandma's house. I should do videos of the Dahmer stuff. It's like there's always cases I'm like super interested in and would like to do stuff, but it's like, it just takes a lot of time if you really want to hit the bricks. But yeah, that's the whole series is fascinating. The Hitchhiker, right? Yeah, I think God, you're super knowledgeable, Marissa. It's a pleasure to always have you fact checking me.
You'll be famous. I said, oh, come on, man. I've seen a bunch of shit before. This ain't going to be anything. And then he said, but if I do tell you, you'll hate me and you won't want to talk.
Yeah, I think that's true, Marshall Dave. And of course, who mentions the BTK was also Lutheran, because I think that, the computer that he used that had the disc in it that eventually got him caught was at a Lutheran church that he was like president or treasurer of, something like that.
To me anymore. I said, no, I'll stick with you. So he goes, well, if I'm going to tell you, I'm going to start at the beginning. And he told me about his first homicide back in Bath, Ohio, when he was 13 years ago.
Right. So
I put my pen down. I'm listening to him. And then he talked about going to the Army in Ohio and getting kicked out and then moving here to Grandma's, where he started killing again. And when he got to about his second or third, I said, well, take a break. I went to get some more coffee. And the lieutenant came out to me and said, is he talking? I said, well, yeah, he's talking, but I said, I don't think he's going to help us. I said, he's told me he's killed like 5 or 6 people, and he hasn't even told me about the guy in the refriferator yet. I said, I think he's a bullshitter. And he goes, no, your partner called. They found 11 heads. And they got penises. So I went back in. I took my pen out. I said, okay, let's start over again. Let's start from the beginning.
It's important to say when you were talking at that point, you just thought there was the one head in his refrigerator.
I'm waiting to find out about this head I saw.
Fuck, that was
he's telling me about somebody he killed 13 years ago and 2 years ago, and it turned out to be another 4 or 5 before we finally got to the head. I went back in with a whole new attitude about the interrogation.
No shit.
Wow. And did you find yourself liking him at all? I'm sure it's different to actually talk to somebody than it is to hear about them.
Well, like I said in the movie to Chris, who really got a lot out of me. I'm talking more about it now, but 20 years ago, I wouldn't have liked this.
Right.
When you spend 6 weeks with somebody, 10, 12 hours a day, you have breakfast with them, lunch with them. I form. Detectives are trained to build rapport, to form a relationship. But I kind of. He was a pathetic fuck. Okay, he couldn't make an emotional connection with anybody. I even asked him one time. I said, "Why didn't you just get a boboyfriend? Why did you have to kill everybody?" And to me, he was just this really pathetic.
That's an interesting point. Is that all? Marissa's saying that almost all serial killers are dishonorably discharged. I don't think Keyes was, though. Although his whole military history is a mystery wrapped in an enigma, because it seems like he might have been sheep dipped or something, because he was like such a good soldier and was at least a candidate for special operations or something. That's a thing I need to look. The Keyes case is so fascinating because it touches on so many different areas of life, right? Like the whole religious thing, which Marissa and I were chatting about in the comments yesterday. He had a really weird fundamentalist religious upbringing, and moved all over the country in all these different locations, had all of these special skills. Yeah, Marissa agrees that he wasn't dishonorably discharged, but yeah, I can think of other examples. Just, but the thing that I think is interesting and significant as well is that serial killers are, like a lot of people with dark triad or sociopathic tendencies, are drawn to those sort of positions of control, like law enforcement or the military. Like a classic example, we were talking about BTK earlier. He was like a dog catcher guy, probably because he couldn't rate and anything more. But I mean, just a lot of these guys. Ed Kemper was like a law enforcement groupie. It's really interesting, and something that is definitely coming up as I'm reading Mindhunter and thinking about John Douglas's own perhaps sociopathic tendencies, and the compare and contrast of personality, like a law enforcement guy like John Douglas and Israel Keyes.
Human being who on the other side had this obsession with this constant pursuit of this hedonistic, pleasurable lifestyle, where he lived in an area, all of his money went towards alcohol and the pursuit of pleasure sexually, and his drugs. I mean, that was his whole reason for living. So he was and as a lover, the people that we talk, he was a very selfish lover. I mean, he was a giver, not a taker. And a
giver, not a taker. Selfish or selfless?
Selfish lover. If you're homosexual and you're selfish,
you're giving.
Okay. You
got it with the hand motion.
You're the train. You're the train, not the tunnel, as they say. Oh, okay.
Dude, I gotta ask you, because obviously we're running out of time. But I got to ask you, based on what you just said about, building a rapport and everything, how did you feel when he was killed? Did you?
Everybody asks that.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth, I'm kind of embarrassed to admit it, but I felt really shitty about it.
Did you?
To tell you the truth, I'm a Catholic and I'm against capital punishment. And I felt sorry for the guy. I mean, he was such a pathetic individual. And like I told Chris in his movie, I felt bad that I felt bad for him. I mean, it made me, I remember thinking, what is there about me that connected with this freak that I feel?
That's such a fascinating portion of the interview, and Kennedy talks about this bond and the fact that he felt some level of pity for Dahmer, who was murdered in prison in a very gruesome way. Marissa, we're so on the same wavelength, because this is essentially the core of the draft of the video that I'm making. Is there's something simpatico between John Douglas, the profiler, and Israel Keyes. But I do believe that there's something different in that to be a serial killer, it's almost like being the apex sociopath. And it's like almost like a completely binary version of, both the evolutionary trade-off that I think exemplifies the sociopathic mindset, which is like, you have no remorse, but at the same time, in exchange for that, you don't really have any theory of mind either. You're not able to project and think about things from somebody else's perspective. And so the serial killer is sort of like that to like the nth degree. And in fact, they, enjoy, they sort of revel in their, staying in their own perspective. They're almost like solipsistic, like they think that the universe sort of only exists for their pleasure, like it was described with Dahmer here. And so, like, in thinking about like why Mindhunter would be Keyes' favorite book, it's because a personality type and somebody that thinks like John Douglas is close enough to the Israel Keyes of the world to where Keyes can learn from Douglas's profiling, which is essentially a version of theory of mind where you're thinking about things from the criminal's perspective and why they choose certain victims, the victimology, yeah, yeah, exactly. Like their emotional world is everything to them, and I guess in a certain sense, that's a good point, Benton, is that they sort of never develop beyond a very rudimentary level. But it's just, I sort of think about like the development of a serial killer like a combination lock. And that's sort of why it's so confounding and why people debate about like what causes it. But I think it's like a series of things. And I got a good clip that I'm going to put in my video that talks about this from a show recently that I saw on somebody who did like demographic research into serial killers. And like one thing that she found is like a huge contributing factor was the use of lead. And like serial killer clusters are present around like lead plants, where people were downstream of like lead plumes. And I think it's like, it's not just the one thing. Like you have to have a bunch of different things in place, like the crappy family life, being socially rejected, environmental effects. It's like 4 or 5 different things need to line up. And, perhaps with somebody like John Douglas, who's a garden variety sociopath, like maybe only 4 of the 5, 9 of the 10 factors are there, but you need all of them. So again, it's sort of totally binary. Anyway, I don't want to keep bloviating, but I do find it like helpful to discuss this sort of thing so I can like better explain it later in a video.
So bad.
Gotta make you question yourself.
How did you hear it? Somebody called you, or you were in the news?
Yeah, I walked into. By that time, I had been day shift. Actually, the Dahmer thing kind of helped my career a little bit. I finally got off the late shift and got to the day shift, and the captain called me over. He was on the phone with the correctional facility when he was murdered. They called right away. And so I walked in. It was the same thing. I walked in. I took my coat off. He goes, "Hey, Kennedy, they killed your boy."
Your boy.
And I said, "What are you talking about?" And I got on the phone with the guy there and told me what happened. So,
now, how long had it been since you had any contact with him, since the professional aspect of it, the questioning and everything of the trial?
Last time I talked to him was when he was sentenced to 956 years in prison, and I shook his hand as he went off to jail.
And that was it.
And he had requested to talk to me a couple of times, but I didn't really want to anymore.
Okay, yeah.
And what happened was my partner, Dennis Murphy, went up to the correctional institution where he was at for another homicide. People in jail are always saying, "We'll give you some information if you can get me out." So he was up there talking to somebody, and he went to visit Jeff. And he told me that Jeff had put on 35 pounds and had gone from a very straight acting gay male, to a stereotypical, almost flamboyant one.
Wow.
And told him that he is requested to get out of segregation because for the 3.5 years he was there, they kept him in a 9x12 windowless cell 23 hours a day. And only 1 hour a day he was put like in a room where it was open to the sky so you could see the fresh air by himself. And he told Dennis, he goes, "I'm going crazy here. I can't take it, just to be locked like with no communication." And he even said, "I know that when I get put in the general population, they'll kill me." And it was within 3 months that he was put in the general population.
Oh, no one knows
that he was murdered.
Wow.
No kidding.
But it really upset you when he was killed. Like,
Well, I don't like to say upset like I'm some kind of a pussy.
No,
I
but
I love this guy.
but you talk about the documentary. It was really interesting.
I was supposed to go to class that night because I was going on to get my graduate degree because I wanted to get out of the police department. I was frying being a homicide detective. And I turned around and went back home and went to my little apartment, just sat there by myself. And I don't know. It was another one of those things where I felt bad about feeling bad.
No shit, yeah.
So
Yeah,
no one thinks you're a pussy. You're a 6'7" homicide detective.
There's
No
nothing
one's
worse than a
mistaking you.
6'7" pussy homicide detective.
What was your first inkling that this was a massive case? By the way?
When I saw the head.
Yeah, but I mean, there's been other situations, but where you realize, holy fuck, this is going to be an international story. That's what I mean.
No, I really didn't think it would be an international. So I was surprised the next day when I came into work, and there was literally a media circus right outside the police. So I knew instinctively that you didn't want to fuck this case up, right? You had to do it right. So, yeah, and I was young, I was energetic, it was exciting, it was a good time, when you're in your 30s and you're doing what you've been trying to do. So I can honestly say for those 6 weeks, I poured everything.
That's a career case, right there.
Yeah, it was. So I knew it would make or break me.
Did you chase that high afterwards? Like another case that was high profile? What was the second?
Oh no!
What was the second case?
We found a finger in a garage.
Well,
I could tell you that during this time, anybody that we got reports all the time. There's bones over here, and I mean they're always ribs, rib bones and chicken bones, and but they didn't check it all out.
That was it for you, though. You knew that was going to be
the day that he got sent to jail. The next day, I got put to the late shift, and that night I got another homicide. So I mean, it was a very busy year for us that year, and so I really didn't have time to think about it or process it. They just went back to work.
I'm pardon my interruption. They're telling us you have to go because you have press. It's your guys. I want to properly promote this.
Absolutely.
I have one more question too.
Talk to the guy who made this film, man.
We'll watch the film.
The film is really good. I'm sure he's
It is really funny that the filmmaker has spoken like a handful of words in this, and I mean, smartly, I think, because you don't want to get in the way of this sort of rare opportunity to hear Detective Kennedy. I also just want to mention that I posted a link in the chat to a New Yorker article that summarizes this book that I was referring to about this scientist's hypothesis that lead exposure after World War II, when they started using manufacturing lots of different things with lead, led to the serial killer boom roughly 20 years later, when all the children that were exposed to lead came of age. It's kind of frightening.
It was really, but this is fascinating. You were there. It's called the Jeffrey Dahmer Files. It opens February the 15th. We'll, of course, Twitter it. Select theatrical beginning is at the IFC Center here in New York. Cable video on demand platforms. You can grab it on Comcast, Cox, Cablevision, Time Warner, Satellite TV, DirecTV, iTunes, Xbox, SundanceNow.com, and go to jeffthemovie.com. It's fascinating, and you can tell by listening to this. We literally we would have sat here with you until fucking 11 o'clock.
We want to talk to the detective about it. He's telling interesting stories. I want to hear what the fucking f-stop of the camera was.
I have one more. It's really exciting. I have one question for Pat. There was one particular, Patrick, whatever you prefer. There was one thing about a boy escaped Dahmer's apartment, went to 2 cops. They didn't know what was happening. They sent this kid back, and Dahmer murdered him immediately. It was obviously a tremendous mistake. Did you know the cops that happened to?
Yes, and actually, in the middle of the interrogation, when he told me about this one, I said, "Time out. Are you trying to tell me that 2 Milwaukee police officers walked this kid back there?" So I took a break. I went and told, I didn't talk to any bosses right away. I went and got on the phone to the 3rd District, and I said, could you check back to July? Because he was uncanny about dates of his victims. Uncanny, like most serial killers are. But they said, a squad got sent to check for a naked Asian male off 25th and State. I said, find out who those guys are. They told me, and I said, wake them up and tell them to get down here. Within half hour, they were there, and I told them, and they were both just crestfallen.
Pretty much sent a man to his death.
Well,
I know it's more complex
time to
than
talk
that.
about it, but
yes.
And these were good men. I mean, both of them I saw them put their life on the line. One guy was in a shootout with a guy who killed a cop. I mean, these were courageous young Christian males, I would think they would say. But in the situation that they got in, when they were surrounded by a people of color, the only other person that they really believed was the other white male. And
I think you're right, Benton. There, I can't remember the exact sequence, but the person that escaped in, I believe it was 1991, has like a Southeast Asian name, as I mentioned earlier, is an Asian male, and either before that or perhaps after, I think it was before, his brother was also murdered by Dahmer. So this one family suffered, 2 ultimate indignities by the hands of this serial killer. It's a crazy story, and it's also really sort of strange in that almost the exact same sequence of events happened with this other gentleman with the handcuffs that ended Dahmer's run. And you have to wonder how many other close. I mean, it's sort of amazing that Dahmer's sequence lasted as long as it did, considering, how just out of his mind he was, and how all the neighbors were complaining about the smell. And it's just totally nuts. Synthosomophone. I'm probably butchering that. My apologies.
Kind of that's what I teach now in college. It's a thing called the police complex.
Marissa says that his other brother is simply a liaison with Dahmer. That's interesting. I really need to like read some secondary sources and then see if I can pull like trial materials or something. It's such a fascinating case.
Anybody can get, and like I say, it's a lot longer to get into it, and I hate to leave it like this because these are two fine gentlemen. But did they make a mistake? Oh hell yeah, they made a hell of a mistake.
You were fascinating, Pat.
You know what the odd thing is though, if perhaps those officers in the car would have had the proper handcuff key, that would have gone away again.
He would have got away again because this guy did not want. He was embarrassing for him. He did not want to press charges.
So it's another case that might have just ended up with more dead people.
There's at least 6 or 7 pivotal times throughout his murderous career where authority figures had him and he was able to fool them. I'm talking about public psychologists, probation parole officers, judges, the building superintendent, and his own father.
Wow.
Who saw the bones of dead people and believed what Jeff told him, that they were the bones of a dog that he had found.
This is fascinating stuff.
I got to come back.
I am seeing
amazing. Your interview was so good. Thank you for coming too.
It's on.
Wherever you are.
Demand?
But no, it's just it's hard to top the detective who talked to Dahmer. I mean, it's just the film was well done. I'll say that. It was excellent, and it kept me from the beginning to the end.
I'm always looking for great video on demand stuff, and this is I'm going
JeffTheMovie.com to get all the information you need, and just a genuine.
Can I make a shameless plug?
Sure,
absolutely.
Because I work.
That's so Benton. This story is just rife with these weird cosmic coincidences. Benton points out that he found an article that says that Benton killed the one brother while on probation for assaulting sexually the other brother, according to an article he found. It's just like so many weird sort of like pachinko balls had to fall in exactly the right slots for that case to turn out as strangely as it did.
With Chris, he's the one who told me you got to write a book about what happened. So
I need to make a note to find this book if it exists.
Over the last year, I just completed a book that starts with the day I find the head in the refrigerator and ends the day I shake his hand.
Wow.
It kind of tells what happened to me personally. I mean, I ended up getting a divorce out of the deal.
Wow. It's called More Than a Head.
So I'm actually looking for a publisher, someone to take a look at it.
Yeah. Oh man, who wouldn't pick that up in a second?
Well,
it's fantastic.
You're unknown, and everybody's got a book, they say.
And you really believe you got divorced because of Jeffrey Dahmer?
Oh no, I mean divorce. That was a big thing. My wife was the day it came. I did get home for like 24 hours, and when I got home, she was sitting. We were having problems anyway, but that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
So at the end of it, you say special thanks to Jeffrey Dahmer.
would you explain in detail to other people about this case, or would you...
Oh yeah, I've done it many times.
I mean, during the case.
Oh no, we're under gag order. We're not allowed to.
So even your wife, you wouldn't be like, so the fucking head over here.
She didn't want to talk about it.
Oh, she didn't
want to talk about with the kids.
Right.
We're taking the kids out of the house for those 6 weeks. I was alone quite a bit.
Oh man.
No, homicide detectives alone, just not a good thing.
You watch First 48?
No, I can't watch any of that crap.
Yeah.
I just can't.
I watch it and it's like, why do these guys talk? You could tell that the cops are pissed off when they lawyer up. So do what pisses the cops off.
No matter how much lawyering up you do, Black Skull in the refrigerator does not get explained away.
Trump, all that shit every time.
We got to get them together. They have television.
Thanks so much,
Thanks
man.
a lot for having us.
Love it.
Right on.
Thank you so much.
The Opie and Anthony show is pretty much over. This will be a
Stupid fuck.
Yeah, I don't think this last bit is related, or they just sort of debrief on the interview. So I think we're going to transition into the other bit of material that we're going to check out, which is the Israel Keys' girlfriend interview. Now, this one is over 3 hours long. I also want to thank Victoria Evans, who has it posted on her YouTube. Her YouTube is amazing. I'll post a link in the chat. I'm sure everybody's aware of it, but it's got so much stuff that I haven't been able to find anywhere else. And I'm sort of a Johnny come lately to the Keys case, but this woman has compiled an impressive array of material on her channel. So there's the channel, or the link to the this interview, I guess. But anyway, you can find her channel easily off of that. So I will cue that up, and we're gonna dig into that. Yeah, I really am super interested in reading Kennedy's book. I don't know why I hadn't before. Let's see here. But yeah, the Keyes case is especially fascinating to me because I'm in Juneau. I live in Juneau, Alaska, which is pretty far away from Anchorage, but I have a lot of family up there, and I've spent a lot of time in the area. And so, just reading about the Samantha Coning case has an extra layer of meaningfulness and just creepiness, given that I know all of the locations so well and how sort of integral the locations were to her murder. Like where he lived in this sort of enclave of Anchorage where a bunch of lawyers live, and the park that he took her to. It's just such a weird case. So I got this queued up to the beginning of the interview, and again, I would definitely recommend Victoria's channel if you haven't come across it yet in your Israel Keyes research. Let me know if the volume on this or my mic is good. If there's any issues, please drop a comment. But let's give this a spin. We're not going to get through the whole 3 hours of this thing, but I'm definitely down to stream for a bit, and I've been wanting to check this out. And I want to thank Marissa again for suggesting this as some material for the stream. So let's give it a go.
It is the 13th day of March 2012. Time on my watch is 18:53 hours. Reference case number 12-5307. We'll be in interview room number 1 with a.
Oh yeah, there's going to be some redactions like that for personal info, like where the audio cuts out, I think. So just to be aware, it's not a glitch. I am well informed, I believe.
How are you? It'll be better when I. You get some water. My name is Monique Dahl. I'm a detective here at the Anchorage Police Department. This is my partner, Detective Cordy.
Thanks for coming down.
The reason why you're here tonight is because we have some questions to ask you, and I have no doubt that at this point you probably have some questions to ask us as well. Wondering what's going on, what's kind of, what's in the works here. So we'll kind of work it out, and, we'll let you know exactly what page we're on. And we do have some questions for you. Since you're here in the police station, before we can ask you any questions, we need to read you your Miranda warnings.
Yeah, Marissa points out that the subject, Israel Keyes' girlfriend, her name is Kim, and they redact it during this interview, but she's usually referred to in titles and stuff as Kimberly, or at least sometimes not referred to by name. I mean, I'm sure she isn't keen to be associated with this case, but yeah, it's an interesting dynamic in the relationship, in that it followed a pattern that was evident in a number of Keyes' relationships, where he seemed to be attracted to older women, sort of perhaps mother figures in a sense, but he had another girlfriend down in Washington, that longtime girlfriend. I think there's two of the more significant other relationships that Keyes had, and they both followed that same pattern, which is, of course, interesting and perhaps revealing.
Have you ever been read your Miranda warnings before? Okay. Have you ever been to the police station before?
Not since I was a kid.
Okay. All right. Well, it's just like it is.
I worked in a gym.
The other thing that I want to point out, yeah, she still lives in Alaska, is that she's like a nurse at a hospital, and a fairly higher up one, if I'm remembering correctly. So, just all these sort of demographic details are very suggestive and interesting to think about. And you have to sort of wonder on a surface level, like what somebody like that, an accomplished nurse, would want to do with somebody like Keyes. But when you talk to people that knew Keyes before all this came out, that were clients of his in his contracting business, he presented a very convincing mask, apparently. So
fell in a prison as a nurse, but
Gotcha. Well, it's just like it is in the movies. It's pretty plain and straightforward. Like I said, it's just, not a big deal. You're not in any trouble. You're not under arrest. You're not being detained. You're here because we have some questions that we sure would like to ask you. Okay. But
yeah, she's a traveling nurse, Mercy points out, and like that's, I think, pretty more common in a place like Anchorage than it would be in another metro area in some city in the lower 48 down south. Because there aren't, like, Anchorage has about half or maybe a little bit more of the population of Alaska in this one concentrated area, and there's all these outlying communities known as like the bush villages that can't support adequate medical professionals, or people generally don't want to live in those places. They're not attractive in terms of like cost of living. I mean, they're great if you like to go hunting and be outdoors, but if you're in an urbane type of person, like a professional, it can be difficult to recruit in these places. So there's lots of people who go on these like milk runs of visiting outlying communities on a regular schedule. And I believe Kimberly was one of these. I believe she's a nurse practitioner, which is, somebody that can prescribe medication. They're sort of like the next thing down from a doctor in terms of that totem pole.
that being said, if you can really help us out, we really need your help and your cooperation here. If at any time, you want us to kind of stop and a moment to gather your thoughts or whatever, just let us know. Okay. Before I do ask you any questions, before I ask you what questions you have of us, though, I'm going to read this Miranda card and we'll get that out of the way, okay? All right. I have a tendency to talk really fast, so if I talk too fast and you don't understand me, can you just stop me, please, and ask me to repeat it? I don't mind that at all. And like I said, sometimes I need the correction. You have the right to remain silent. Do you understand that, right?
You have to verbalize it so we can hear.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Do you understand that, right? Okay. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him present with you while you are being questioned. Do you understand that, right?
yes.
Okay. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning if you wish one. Do you understand that, right?
Yes.
Okay. You can decide at any time to exercise these rights.
I'm curious why they're Mirandizing her. I'll make a note to look into that issue, because it's not typical in witness interviews, to my knowledge. Anyway, that's a point that I want to get clarity on.
Rights and not answer any questions or make any statements. Do you understand this, right?
Yes.
Okay. With that being said, what we want to talk to you about here today is a very narrow scope of questions. Okay. Have you? I'm just going to show you a picture here. See if you recognize kind of what we're talking about. Probably seen these up around town.
I've seen those everywhere.
Okay. This case specifically, is why we've asked you to the police station. Okay. Like I said, you're not a suspect. You're not a person of interest. We do need to ask you some questions about yourself and about your boyfriend as well.
It's not my boyfriend anymore.
Okay. What did you guys break up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we're talking about this individual. Okay. Can you tell me what his name is?
Israel Keys.
Okay. Israel Keys. Okay. And you indicated that you had been seeing each other, but you are no longer.
Yeah, we haven't been. I just told him that he and his daughter could stay there till they finish the school year, but we broke up a long time ago.
Okay. How long?
Oh, yeah. So it's mentioned in American Predator that their relationship had become fairly platonic over a long period of time leading up to the murder of Koenig. So this detail is all interesting. And Marissa mentions that there's some suspicion that Kimberly was involved because of sex toys and stuff. And Benton also mentions that it's more common in interrogations these days. And that is a point that I should mention, is it's been a few years since I worked in criminal law, because I worked in criminal law from roughly 2008 to 2018-ish. And then, for the last chunk of time, I worked for the Attorney General's office doing research stuff. So not necessarily on criminal law, in fact, very rarely. So my knowledge is a little bit out of date in terms of procedures, but that's just interesting to me because, yeah, I need to look into that. There must have been some case law or something like that.
Did you all break up?
Over the summer.
Oh, okay.
I've been coming for a long time.
Yeah. Okay. How long had you guys been seeing each other?
About probably 5.5, 6 years, but I worked as a traveler, so didn't see him very often, like I was on the road a lot.
Gotcha. So you just kind of grew apart.
Yeah, well, once we were together, 9 to 5, it just wasn't.
Right, exactly. Well, when you have to spend some time with somebody, sometimes they don't turn out to be the person that you thought they were. And he's got a daughter. Okay. And were you pretty close with her?
A little bit, yeah.
And is her name? Okay.
And she moved there. I think it was 2 years ago. This is her second year in school.
Okay.
And yeah, that's.
Her answer strikes me as pretty unconvincing. She was a little bit close with the daughter, so I'm curious to know more about that relationship as well.
I didn't want to say. And plus, we exchanged. He worked in the house because I bought a fixer-upper. We exchanged work for rent. And,
So he's been doing what kind of work on the house has he been doing for you?
He did the garage and rain and stuff like that.
Okay, because he has his own construction business. Okay. So how long have he and been living? And are you talking about the address over at? Okay, so I forget. Right. Okay. And do you own that house?
I do.
Okay. How long have you owned it?
When did I buy it? I think I bought it 2009.
Okay.
It's hard to think right now.
No, that's okay. No, I understand. It's a unique set of circumstances. So, I mean, during the time that since you guys have been broke up, have you lived at the house with him? And you have. Okay. And when Samantha Koenig went missing, she turned up missing. She was kidnapped on February 1st of 2012. Any discussion about her at all in your house?
No.
None.
Not at all.
Okay. So that name never came up.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No.
I can see you getting real emotional here. Are you doing all right?
Yeah, I'm just like, there's a girl missing and it has to do with that. That's just.
So it seems like she's just sort of becoming aware of it, but I wonder to what degree she must have had inklings because I'm going to look up the timeline on this because there's a good website that has a timeline and see when he was arrested. I'm just curious about her state of mind here.
No, we never talked about that at all. And, he left town, I think I left town February 4th or 5th. And I think he left around the same time. And then I got back the 22nd, and he got back. They get back maybe a week later, and then they left again to go to his sister's wedding.
Okay. So you said you left around February 4th or 5th?
Mm-hmm. I went on vacation.
Where did you?
6th.
Where did you go?
Went on a cruise for 5 days and met my friend. And we drove along the Florida coast and then went to Mardi Gras.
Okay. Did you fly to Florida then? Or how did you get down there?
Drove to Florida, flew to New Orleans.
Okay. So you drove from Alaska to Florida?
Drove
sorry.
from New Orleans to Florida.
Okay.
My friend picked me up in New Orleans and we just drove.
Did you fly from Anchorage then to New Orleans?
Yeah.
Okay. What airline did you use?
Alaska.
I just want to stop here briefly to orient ourselves because I've got, let's see here, another tab that I want to share that has a really great resource that I'm sure you folks are aware of, but this is from, I'll get the address for you for a second, but a website has like a really great spreadsheet with all of the timeline details here, and there we go. So I'm trying to, let's see here. Well, hopefully this is good enough, but it looks like, so according to this timeline, and it's very detailed, the Koenig murder happened on February 1st, 2012. The interview was on March 13th, so about a month and a half, a little bit less later. And so I'm just kind of looking through this timeline because I just want to orient ourselves, make sure we're. And Marissa also mentioned that Kimberly was aware that Israel was seeing prostitutes, which is very common serial killer behavior. And one of the interesting things about the depiction of the Koenig murder in American Predator, Marie Callahan's book, is just the efficiency in terms of time, where it almost seems impossible. Keyes was, in the process of murdering and hiding the evidence, like hours or minutes before he got on this cruise with his girlfriend and daughter. So one thing that is mentioned by Callahan in the book a couple times is how time efficient Keyes apparently was. So yeah, there were New Orleans on the 6th, Anchorage on the 8th, and then Keyes, his daughter, and Kimberly were in Mexico. So did they? Oh, no. The Anchorage date is for when Anchorage Police Department searched Koenig's home. So they're in Mexico, New Orleans on the 11th. So she was in New Orleans like 2 days before this. And then Keyes was apparently in Texas. Is this timeline? Wow, this is crazy. Is this a year off or something like that? I'm in February. I'm a month back. Sorry for the confusion. So the trip happened about exactly a month before this interview. So my apologies. That was in February. Okay. Sorry, I'll just take a second more. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page and that I'm understanding the exact sequencing here. So then on February 21st, Israel's daughter goes back to school after they return from the trip. Furandy happened February 24th, which is a big event up in Anchorage where there's all sorts of public sort of games, and it's hard to describe, but very Alaskan event. But Victoria has some really good videos on her channel that show footage from the Furandy if anybody's interested in seeing what that's all about. And there's apparently some sort of ransomware exchange attempt on the 24th where Samantha's boyfriend received a text from her phone on February 24th. Israel constructs the ice fishing shed on the 27th to dispose of her body, which is a crazy part of American Predator where that's described. Okay, so I just want to find out when he was arrested. Okay. ATM. Okay, so he was making ATM transactions a few days before this on the 7th and 9th and the 11th, so 2 days before this interview. Okay, so he was placed under arrest on this same day, March 13th, at 12:50 local time, Lufkin, Texas. Wow. So that helps me clarify for me because it makes it much more plausible that this is all dawning on her and this is all hitting her at this exact moment. Wow. This is crazy. All right. Sorry for the detour, but I thought that was at least useful context. I'm gonna present again. We're going to go back to the interview. Man. Okay.
Okay. Did you use air miles or did you pay for a ticket? Okay. All right.
And then they flew 2 days before. before, and I had actually went on the cruise with them.
Oh, okay. So on February
'cause we booked
4th.
that. You know, I agreed to go. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, February. I think they flew out a couple days before I did.
So you flew out February 6th, and they flew out on February 4th ish.
Ish.
Okay. Did they fly to New Orleans as well, or did they fly to Florida?
I think no, they flew to Texas and drove to New Orleans.
Okay.
So he could see his family lives in Texas. So.
Do you know where in Texas?
I think he flew into Houston.
Okay.
And his family, not sure where they live exactly.
When you're saying they, you mean Israel?
Okay. Do you know what family he has in Texas?
His mom is some of his sisters. I think his youngest. He's a little brother.
Do you know what his mom's name is? How about any of his sisters or his brother?
I know some of their names. They all have biblical names. His family's really religious. His let's see, there's I don't know if they all live there, but
So he's got a lot of siblings, and that's a big family. Yeah. How many siblings does he have? Do you know?
I think it's 8.
Oh my goodness.
Or maybe there's 8 of them.
Okay. Okay. And so just to make sure that I'm kind of keeping it right in my head, so they flew out. He flew out about February 4th. They flew into someplace in Texas.
Take a day or 2, yeah.
Okay, and then
they flew last year, I think.
Okay, and then you flew out on February 6th, and you flew into New Orleans and had a friend pick you up, and you drove to Florida.
No, I went on a cruise with my friend picked me up at the end of the cruise.
Oh, okay.
So it was a 5-day cruise.
Out of New Orleans? Oh, okay.
To Mexico.
Oh, wow.
And then, and then my friend picked me up from New Orleans at the end of that, and then I went and traveled with her.
Okay. Which cruise line did you
Carnival.
take? Carnival? Okay. Did you stop anywhere in Mexico then, or?
Meridia, I think Meridia and Cozumel.
Okay. All right. And then when your friend picked you up, so did Israel, did they come back here to Anchorage then?
No, they went to his parents. I mean, his mom's not his dad. His dad's dead, but they went to his family's.
Which is in Texas somewhere.
In Texas.
Okay. And when did you get back to Anchorage?
The 22nd, I think, late that night.
Okay. And when did he get back to Anchorage?
I think it was like and I'm not sure exactly, but I think it was like a week and a half later.
So like the 28th, 29th?
I don't really, yeah. I mean, I don't remember. Like, they flew back. So I know he changed his ticket because he missed his flight. But I honestly don't remember like what day it was. I think it was like a week later, but I just don't remember. Like,
do you know why they missed their flight?
I think his car got stuck somewhere.
In Texas, or okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
That whole episode is like wild. Referring to American Predator's description, where Keyes almost has like what you could describe as like a fugue state, and his family's very concerned about him. If that's the one I'm thinking of, and I'm pretty sure it is. This case is sprawling.
So, 28th or 29th or somewhere around there is when they got back to Anchorage.
Yeah.
As best you can recall.
Yeah, I mean, it would be on the Alaska Airways, but
both of them?
I probably have it in my calendar. No. Yeah. Both.
Okay.
Yeah. What does Israel do to make a living?
He's a contractor. So he just independent contractor. He's licensed, bonded, all that, and he just gets hired to do.
His license expired in 2010.
Yeah, he hasn't really been working much. He's been kind of depressed, and
So how's he been making ends meet? I mean, he's got a daughter to support, and you've been generous enough to let him stay. But
I paid the mortgage and utilities and everything. Because, like I said, he does work around the house in exchange for rent. Like, he fixes stuff.
You know, this is something that wasn't brought up in American Predator that I can remember, and is actually quite curious. If Keyes had been out of work for at least 3 years, perhaps he was working under the table or something a little bit, but like the detective brings up a good question. How was he making ends meet for 3+ years with a daughter, dependent? Yeah, that's a good question.
Things like that.
What does he do for cash? I mean, he's got to buy groceries, right?
I mean, he does little handyman jobs and stuff.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember, like 2010. He's done jobs since then.
Well, he's not licensed, bonded, or insured if he doesn't have an active license.
Yeah. Well, I know he used to be.
Okay. Has Israel ever had a problem with drugs?
Not that I know of.
Have you?
No.
Never?
No.
Okay.
No. I'm a nurse practitioner. I have a DEA license. No. I worked too hard to get that license. No.
Okay. Have you ever talked to any of the DEA diversion folks? They're the ones that handle the licensing.
No, I mean, just the usual application online and everything.
Okay. But they've never, sometimes they do spot checks. They ask for your license, they want to take a look at it, stuff like that. They ask for your.
Yeah, that's a great point that I had forgotten, is that Marissa points out that Keyes was robbing banks, and there's a couple incidents that are described in Predator, which I keep referring to because I read recently, but still you wonder how far that would have gone. And one thing that I also remember is that I believe one of the bigger scores that he got had ink packs in it, and so I don't know that he was able to realize the fruits of his labor, so to speak, there. And I just always have gotten the feeling that there's like more to this guy under the surface in terms of what he was involved in, but that's just a blind hunch. Man, yeah, Keyes is such a mysterious figure that it's easy to sort of let your mind run wild. But the other thing I wanted to mention here is that the detective almost seems to be, well, not almost, is exerting some real pressure on Kimberly here, in the sense that, like, when a detective in a situation like this brings up like the DEA compliance people, and you're a nurse practitioner, what is she implying? That Keyes was perhaps siphoning drugs from Kimberly, perhaps? Or, I wonder to what extent this is like a tactic, and to what extent it's just a question that they may have had some basis for believing in, but it's certainly a departure from the line of questioning before this. I wanted to note that.
Prescription history. They want to make sure, they have some problems with some people overprescribing. You've never had any contact. You've never had anybody contact you about anything like that? Okay. How long have you been working at Prov?
A year and a half.
Okay. Before that, where did you work?
She's referring to, but when the detective says Prov, she means Providence Medical Center, which is the largest hospital in Anchorage.
I worked for remote medical, so that's why I was traveling.
Gotcha.
So I worked, North Slope and some pipeline.
I feel like I need to add context. You just said pipeline, but the North Slope is where the Alaska pipeline is, and where there's lots of pipeline workers. It's very, otherwise remote and inhospitable area, where again they have nurses from outside, or perhaps contracted to stay there for periods of time, work to be able to provide care for pipeline workers. I don't know I'm sure most of people are aware, but Alaska has its own sort of weird quasi-sovereign oil wealth from this pipeline. And every year, in fact, just last month, every Alaskan gets a check for like some portion of it. I think it was $1,000 this year, which is sweet.
It's in California and all
that. Okay.
Excuse me, who's that with?
Remote medical.
And Marissa was again on the same wavelength, and thinking that it was almost like a veiled threat. And I totally concur. I mean, the way that it was brought up so out of nowhere, it's as if it was planned on some level to like, shift gears on Kimberly and try to discombobulate her or something.
As an independent contractor? Yeah, definitely never had DEA, and I know definitely that I don't like I'm very, limit controlled substances that I prescribe.
Right. Right, because if anything will kind of get you in hot water with the DEA folks, it's that, right?
Well, yeah, and I mean, I've even had letters like, did you know your patient like picked up this and then you prescribed it? That happened in Washington, and I called and they said I did not prescribe that medication, so I've had that happen.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I don't.
So are you? So I'm interested because I don't know the difference. Are you a nurse practitioner? Are you a physician's assistant? Are they the same thing? They're not the same thing,
No,
right?
Similar scope of practice, but
what's the difference?
Nurse practitioners, it's a master's in nursing, and PAs, it's a PA program, and nurse practitioners usually have a background in nursing, and they go into advanced education, and PAs just kind of somebody from the medical field, and then they do a 2-year program.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's similar.
Okay. And you're working at Prov now, or where are you working at Prov?
It's family or employee health.
Employee health. Okay. So is that some kind of like a, like an insurance monitoring program, or what is that?
No, just do family practice and occupational med. And,
gotcha. So you still see clients and stuff like that. You still have patients. And,
a lot of patients. Yeah.
Okay. And you're still seeing patients and okay.
Yeah.
All right. Getting back to Israel, and
what was why
I'm just
what does this have to do with me?
I'm kind of interested. I knew that you work for Prov, and so I just want to kind of make sure that I'm dotting my I's and crossing my T's. With
that's something I hadn't even thought about until Kimberly mentioned it. Is that they haven't really dropped the other shoe in telling her like if Keys is involved. I mean, obviously she's inferred that, or highly suspicious that's the case, a high probability. But so that makes me feel that the DEA drug talk was even more intentional by the detective, because obviously Kimberly's anticipating hearing the bad news, and before that can happen, she gets hit with the second punch there.
You and I'm kind of interested in your background because I'm interested in Israel and kind of the recent travel and stuff like that. I mean, that's that's questions that we need to know.
Yeah.
All right. So I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable, but
Yes, you did.
Kind of in the midst of doing a thorough investigation, there's some hard questions we need to ask. Okay. I see you getting upset again. Okay. And I'll just reassure you again. You're not under arrest. You're not in any trouble. You're not a person of interest. Okay. And I see you looking at this folder, this missing person, and I see you getting really upset. Okay.
I just want to know what's going on. There's no way Izzy would ever have anything to do with a missing girl. Like, there's just no way.
So he didn't know her, as far as you know?
No.
Okay. I want to get back to how he made his money. Okay. How did he pay for the plane tickets in the cruise fare?
Well, he did jobs. I didn't know his license had expired that long ago. I mean, he did jobs for some of my friends. He did some remodel work, and he had a lot of clients, a lot of word of mouth. You know? And I know he did work for my friends because they told me. So he was definitely working.
Did he have a vehicle? What did he get around in?
His truck.
In the white truck that's in the driveway? Okay.
Marissa, I haven't actually listened to that interview yet, or at least it's been a number of years. So that's actually probably the next one we should do to compare and contrast. And I'm wondering how this detective what technique she's schooled in terms of interviewing, because a lot of police have a lot of funny ideas about in interview technique. I was just reading the Wikipedia entry for what's known as the Reed technique, which is still used by a lot of police departments and has elicited a lot of false confessions and is questionable to put it mildly. But yeah, that's got to be the next one we listen to, just because it's going to be so interesting to compare and contrast.
Did he ever have any mechanical problems with that truck, or was it a pre-sound truck? I mean,
I think it was pretty. Yeah.
Always ran.
He bought it not that long, like a couple of years ago, maybe. No, never had any problems with that anymore.
I understand that he has this business, but is he like the sole proprietor of the business? He's like a one-man show kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, so there's not like a fleet of trucks out there, so just this one truck.
Just him.
Okay, all right. Did he ever have keys to your vehicle? Yeah.
Yeah, so, I'd let him drive it whenever he wanted to.
Okay. Yeah. When was the last time you drove it?
Yeah, now I want to look into this detective's background and see if there's been any other interesting incidents in her career. Yeah, there's a really insular, sort of thin blue line culture in some departments in Alaska law enforcement, where they really don't, they really sort of hold the line in terms of any sort of internal criticism. And so sometimes, yeah, I don't want to go off on the whole thing here, but they protect their own, so to speak. And so sometimes there can be incidents that we don't hear about, is the upshot of what I'm trying to say.
I guess before he left, I mean, I don't know like exactly the day, but like I said, he has keys to my car, and I told him he can use it whenever he wants. Sometimes he would take it to pick up his daughter, because already be warmed up. I just got home from work, or
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really think about that stuff, It's just...
Right. Tell me about. Did she? I mean, she's what, 9 years old or so now? 10. Yeah. Okay. And I mean, taking the cruise and flying down there and stuff like that. I mean, that's a lot of time off from school. Do you know what school she goes to? And
Turnigan Elementary.
Do you know if they've ever contacted Israel in regards to her missing?
No. I think she missed like a week and a half maybe, but then they changed their flight back, and so she ended up missing longer. But he talked to the teacher and had her homework and everything. And this time it was spring break for a lot of their trips, so I don't.
Gotcha.
But it does seem like
a lot of missed school, right?
It does.
I mean, I remember.
I kind of thought it was a lot of
yeah.
Time,
Well, and then you said that he was here for, you think he came back the 28th or 29th or something like that, and then he flew out again?
Yeah, because his sister, I guess when he was visiting them in February, his sister said, I'm getting married, I want you to come to the wedding. So then he flew out again.
Okay.
I took him to the airport. I don't remember the day, but I think it was someday last week, I think, or maybe 2 weeks ago. I can't remember.
Okay. Do you know if it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or sometime during the weekend?
Because my friend was in town like right before then. What day was that? Yeah, like a week ago. But I don't know. I can't even remember. I don't remember the day.
Okay.
I just don't.
All right. What shift do you work at the hospital? Being a nurse practitioner, do you work like all around the clock, all days off, that sort of thing? Or
I work 8 in the morning. I usually.
I just want to note that the tone of this interview is totally bizarre. Like, they sound like they're talking about grocery prices, or just. They both have this sort of very conversational tone. You can tell that they're obviously, socially adept, well-adjusted people, but we still haven't heard, like, what's the price of tea here? Like, is Keys involved or not? I mean, that would be I would not want to pursue, like, keep being interviewed if I didn't get some reality on that question as a starter. If I was Kimberly, I'd be like, what is going on? Like, what evidence do it's just so she's obviously highly agreeable in terms of her personality traits, which You may explain why she was with Keys for so long, or yeah, it's just very odd to me. It just strikes me as incongruent.
Leave about 8. And I get home, it really varies. I mean, sometimes it's 11, 12-hour day, and other times I'm home by 6 or so, like I was today.
And do you have Saturday and Sunday off? Or okay, all right. At any time, you never came home, and Israel was visiting with Samantha. Samantha's never been over your house. You never met Samantha. You don't know her.
No.
You couldn't pick her out of a lineup of 2 if I hadn't just shown you a picture.
No.
Okay, all right. And Israel never talked about Samantha. Never ever. Okay.
No, definitely not.
Okay. Do you mind?
Yeah, everything's fascinating, and I'm just like, sort of trying to balance, like, not pausing it too much because it's going to take like we'll be listening to this for like 10 hours if I say every thought that comes in my head. But yeah, this is wild and interesting, and sort of a unique circumstance in terms of an interrogation. It's not too often you get to hear this exact sort of setup with like a serial killer significant other that they were living with that it seems clear had no idea. People just need to be like more questioning of authority figures, I think, in general. But like, I think people have sort of been conditioned to just sort of go along with law enforcement's agenda and stuff like this. And I don't know. I'd certainly have at least a question or two.
If I show you some pictures, see what you think about. If you know any different people, these a lot of these pictures are completely random pictures. So just because I'm showing them to you, please don't attach any kind of investigative value to them. Okay. So we throw quite a few pictures in there that, we think are important, and we throw quite a few pictures in there that we think aren't so important. Does that make sense? Okay.
When I worked at a bank teller, they had to show a bunch of pictures to pick them up, so they said the same
You know this guy?
Nope.
Never seen him before?
Nope.
No reason for him to ever be at your house?
Just want to mention, I'm a big fan of sparkling water, and I found a great new brand. Obviously not sponsored, but it's called Nixie. And I got one from the health food store a few blocks away, watermelon mint, and it was so good I went back in there and bought like 2 boxes of it. So if you're a sparkling water fan, I highly recommend.
Nope, not that I know of.
Did Israel know him, as far as you know?
Israel didn't really know anybody in town.
Okay. Yeah. So you've never seen this guy
That is a very suggestive and interesting comment.
at your house?
No. Nope.
Okay.
He didn't have any, I wonder if the only friends I can remember being mentioned in anything about Keys are like kids that he went into the woods with, and then like the kids got freaked out and stopped hanging out with Israel. So I wonder to what extent he had. I guess he had some army buddies, but he said actually another thing that he had like one army buddy in general that he said he shared too much with. So yeah, it seems like his interest in friendships was like solely limited to trying to find other sociopaths to, I don't know, commiserate with or whatever.
I can't remember Izzy ever ever.
How about this guy?
Nope.
Don't know him?
No. Like I said, Izzy never has anything over, just friends.
Okay, and you've never seen him? He's never been a patient of yours?
No.
Okay. About this guy?
No.
Okay.
Not a patient. Never seen him before.
Okay. So did you've never seen Izzy hang out with this guy?
No.
Okay.
Like I said, I've never seen him or he's not anybody.
How about this guy?
No.
Don't know him either? Okay. How about this guy? No. Okay. This guy.
No.
Don't know him either.
No.
Okay.
Guess that he never has company.
I want to get back to this guy.
Yeah, that's another great example, Marissa. The two brothers, what are their names? Anyway, they were somehow related to other terrorist activities, or either the Oklahoma City bombing, or I think that was it. Which is a wormhole I've spent a good deal of time going into, and is another pretty bottomless case. And sometimes I think that the Keys case almost touches on more areas just because of the setup of it. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I'm trying to remember the names of those brothers, but they were sort of in headlines all over the U.S. and involved in some terrible murders. And it is super, super interesting that Keys was like childhood friends with these guys. Yeah. Yeah, I just was writing a note to myself to make sure to look into Keys and friends and what his sort of social connections were, and also to make a note to see if there's any interesting literature on the presence of the personality trait agreeableness in nurses. It seems like there might be anecdotal evidence that cuts both ways, but it just seems like Kimberly is very agreeable at this point. Like she's just sort of going along with stuff, and I don't know. That's one of the impressions that I'm getting.
Okay. My question for you is this, all right? And I don't want you to answer right away. I want you to think for a second before you answer, okay? Because it's important. If you don't know this guy, and you don't think Israel knows this guy, why has this guy been to your house?
He's never been in the house when I'm there. I don't know him ever being at my house.
Okay.
I don't have to think about it. I don't recognize that guy at all.
Okay.
When was he at my house?
He was in your house, at your house within the last 6 weeks.
Does anyone know who she's referring to? I'm scratching my brain and I'm not immediately thinking of who it might be.
Is it work or something?
I can tell you that he was at your house. I know for a fact that he was at your house. I know absolutely, irrefutably, without a doubt in my mind, that he was at your house.
Yeah, I've never seen him there.
Okay.
Don't know who he is.
Okay. Law enforcement has spoken to Israel. Okay. Law enforcement has also spoken to. I would like to know why is so upset that you and Israel just broke up.
We haven't told her.
She knows because she told the law enforcement personnel that were talking to her that she's very upset that you and her daddy broke up.
Really? I didn't know she knew. Because he told me he wasn't going to say anything until they moved out, just so she wouldn't be upset.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I didn't know she knew.
So is he down there to stay with? Because that was her understanding, was that they were down there to stay.
No, he just went for a few weeks.
Okay. We have a search warrant for your vehicle and for the white truck and for your house. Okay. We're searching for several things, none of which I can divulge to you at this time, although you'll be provided with a list of what, if anything, we seize. Okay. I can tell you that this case, because of the nature of it, is a federal case. And there's going to be federal prosecution in this case. I can also tell you that anybody involved in this case is looking at doing a significant amount of time behind federal bars. Okay. The FBI is involved. They're not only consulting on the case, they're working on the case with us.
Can you tell me what is going on, please? Like,
Yeah.
I can tell you that I have reason to believe that Israel knows something about it. And I can also tell you that I have reason to believe that you haven't been completely forthright with me here. And that if there's anything that you've told me that you would like to change, that now is the time to do it.
I am totally being honest. Like, I don't even know. Like, I don't know what you think I'm not being forthright about.
Okay. Let me just tell you, okay? I have been a cop for almost 15 years, okay? 10 of that has been spent in investigations. I absolutely know what I'm talking about, and we don't get to this point until we've done our homework, our background, okay? So we don't talk to people like this until we know the answers to most of the questions that we're asking. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I told you that what we're asking about is a very narrow scope, and that it is an incredibly large case, and it's going to have incredibly large ramifications for anybody involved in it. Okay. I understand that there's more than one side to every story, and I understand that there might be some stuff that you might have told me to present Israel in the best light possible, and because you're scared. Okay. I can appreciate that. I totally can. I'm being honest with you.
You know, this does really remind me of a lot of the sort of push-pull techniques and the read technique, the thing I posted a link to earlier. But I think the fundamental disconnect here, as Marissa said, this is like the second threat. Yeah, terrible cop, no idea what she's talking about. Is that the read technique is stupid and flawed, but does have some success. Yeah, exactly, fishing an empty pond with defendants. But when you're grilling a witness like this, especially when you have no history with them and no real significant cause to doubt them, like the couple things she brought up were easily answered by Kim, you know, you're just going to burn the witness who can help you down the line and isn't attached to the case like a defendant. It's kind of blowing my mind right now, and I'm like wondering where all this is going. And I also, my first impression is that this detective is laying it on way too thick. You know, like it's like sort of signaling theory 101, where it's like when you present, where you have to like say like a bunch of different times like how much of an expert you are, it actually says the opposite, right? You know, when she's telling you about how competent she is, it's like in writing where you want to show, don't tell necessarily. Anyway, I'm fascinated to see where this is going because this cop seems out of her mind.
Okay. I can also tell you that the answers to most of the questions I asked you, I already know.
But I'm totally being honest. I don't know what you like think that I'm not being honest about. Like, I don't understand. Like, I honestly don't. Like I said, I don't.
I think that's one of the reasons why I like wanted to cover this case, is because there's so many things like this that like need a debrief. Like, what do we know in the 10 plus years since this about like what this cop actually did know, or for what basis? And like, I know there's so many things, like what happened to Feldis, the prosecutor that wrangled his way into being interviewed. And, you know, if that doesn't tell you something about how law enforcement works up here in Alaska, I don't really know what else would. But yeah, this is wild. I'm so glad you recommended this, Marissa.
Oh, like, he did do jobs for my friends last year. You know, he did travel to Texas.
Does Israel have a drug problem?
Not that I know of. He said when he was in the military, he experimented or whatever. But
what branch of the military was he in?
Army.
In the Army?
Yeah.
How long ago did he get out?
A long time before I met him.
Okay.
Like when his daughter was born, I think.
Okay. Where is mother?
She lives in Washington, near Bay.
In Washington State?
Yeah.
How come he has custody of her?
Problem. She, I don't think he has official custody. such.
What's the relevance of these questions right now? Like, what would Kim's state of knowledge on these? I mean, it's like you could apply what this detective was saying earlier to these questions. Like, she probably already knows the answer, or at least they're not the kind of questions you would ask unless they're doing them as part of some technique, some way of like head faking a subject, because you're not going to get as accurate of information as you could from these questions, which are very easily verifiable via official sources. So this cop is not good so far.
Come live here.
Okay. I know Israel has a drug problem. Okay.
What kind of drugs?
I'm not going to tell you that. I think we both already know. Okay. You're a medical professional. You're just.
This is blowing my mind. It really is. Yeah. Rick says Fellows retired, but I'm just curious to look at just stuff like his disciplinary, if there's ever bar complaints against him, and what other cases he worked on, what his results were, that sort of thing. I've been meaning to do that, but a lot of balls in the air as of this moment.
Observant as I am, you know what's going on. Okay. I can also tell you this.
Drinks a lot.
This isn't a drug case. I'm not interested in making a drug case. I've
Yeah,
been
no
working
shit.
20 hours a day, 6 weeks to make a drug case. That's not what I do. Okay. I come out for the big stuff. I come out to find the missing girl.
I hate this woman. She sucks out loud.
My one and only mission right now is to either get this girl back home safe to her dad or to recover her remains for her father. Okay. And I can tell you that is absolutely my number one priority. Okay. I'm not here to make a drug case.
We know.
With that being said, if I need to make drug cases in order to recover this girl, one way or the other, I'll do so. Okay. So I've been the one to look her father in the eye every day for the past 6 weeks and tell him that we don't know where his daughter is. And I'm not going to do that for much longer. All right. Yeah. I'm going to give you another opportunity because I do think that you haven't been forthright with me.
This is when I bail, right? Like, why the fuck are you going to let yourself be subjected to this? This is so manipulative, and I don't know. Police can really get away with a lot in investigations, and she's just, it's almost like a bad actor playing a cop in a terrible movie is what it reads like to me. It's just so on the nose.
Okay. But I'm going to warn you that the feds are on board with this. This is not state of Alaska stuff anymore. This is federal prosecution land. You've been in the state of Alaska since what, 2006? Okay, so you were here for Josh Wade. Have you heard anything about the Josh Wade case?
Yeah, I can't remember the commenter's name, but somebody has been sending me some really interesting info about Wade. He was another serial killer in Alaska earlier than this, and I definitely have it on my list to either stream or make videos on it. One thing you'll note is Alaska really punches way above its weight in terms of per capita serial killers. You know, also the other one that like springs to mind right away is the butcher baker Robert Hansen, who would fly women out to remote locations like the most dangerous game, total sicko. But there's many other minor ones, and Alaska, I will remind you, has about 600,000 people in it. So you can like extrapolate that to a city or a state like New York or something like that. They'd probably have 5 billion serial killers.
Okay. Feds don't play. They do not play. They don't need to.
Yeah, that's such a great point, Marissa, that I hadn't outlined or really thought much about, is that this is why Marissa says, I can tell you this is why they never got any information from Keyes. And Keyes' deal points, his sticking points, were always about how his family was going to be treated, how stuff was going to be in the news. He didn't want Kimberly or his daughter to be negatively affected as much as possible. So, I'm sure Kimberly let Keys know, what happened in this interview. There's just so many downstream bad effects from this, and there's no good reason for it, especially if you don't have like a great basis in fact to be doing this. And so again, I'm just so curious about like what this detective thought, what evidence she had. It's just blowing my mind.
Okay. I'm going to give you a chance to start again.
Yeah.
I would suggest that you take that chance.
Yeah, that's again another one, Marissa, that I need to do a video on. Robert Hansen. It's such a weird, creepy story. The Butcher Baker was in the same area roughly of Alaska as this story, and the guy was just like Keys, singularly twisted.
I'm being completely honest. I think he's been drinking a lot, and he used to smoke weed. He doesn't now.
What about meth?
Honestly, not that I know of.
He's never taken meth.
No.
Never had any IV meth.
No.
Never shot it up.
I've never seen like needle stuff or anything like that. He got really depressed, but no, I mean, I worked in a jail and saw people come in on meth and stuff, and he never acted like that, like they did, where, they come in and see things and act all paranoid, and no, he never acts like that.
Does Israel own a weapon, a firearm? What kind of a firearm?
He has guns.
What kind of guns?
They're in a black case, and they're, I don't know, just
like long guns or short guns, handguns?
Yeah, like I get handguns. Little. He has a couple of those, and he was going to take them back to Texas to his family's house, I think. Yeah.
He was gonna, or he did?
He didn't, because he was late for his flight out there.
I think I'm getting a little bit punchy, so I'm thinking about ending the stream here soon. We're at a point that makes a little bit of sense. I think we're going to go to 46 minutes, which is the next timestamp. This is why I love Victoria's channel, is because she has these great timestamps for subject matter. And so from essentially 43 minutes to 46 is talk about guns and travel. So I think we're going to listen to that last segment, and we're going to call it for today. But this has been so much better than watching those first two. I'm going to do a little bit better job at screening this material. So again, I have to really give all the credit to Marissa for letting me know about this one. And I really do think the next one we should listen to is the interview with this detective and Keys. Yeah, and Marissa points out that they never found any meth. I don't know where that comes from. I feel like I've heard that like randomly in comments or something before, but I'm not sure what the basis is. Yeah, and that's like a big part of the read technique, is like you confront the person and then sort of build a rapport by like sympathizing with them and saying, this is once people get to know your story, they'll understand why you did this type deal. And so it's a bizarre thing. I was thinking I did a lot of research and thought about doing a video on it, but then I was like, nobody's going to want to watch this, and I don't really have an angle for it. But it's been, and I also was well aware of it from my time working in criminal law. But it's not talked about enough, the read technique stuff, and it has a bizarre history that I don't want to get into now because it's too involved. But just to give you one revealing anecdote, the person that developed the read technique developed it in an interview where a man was wrongly convicted. So I think that's doesn't speak well for it. But anyway, let's listen to the last few minutes of this here, and then we'll start today. I'm thinking about starting to do a couple streams a week. So it's helpful for me to have this sort of routine, and yeah, it's fun, and I feel like the only way I'm going to get better at it is by sort of just getting some reps in. So anyway.
And I had to go pick up his luggage from the airport, and it was in the suitcase. So that's how I know he didn't.
So he missed his flight.
Yeah, I think he was the police discovered that Samantha Koenig's, the victim's father, was growing weed in the house, which was illegal at this time. Alaska has a really interesting history with weed. It was decriminalized here for a time in the 70s, so I'm not sure what happened if they had charged him or anything, but it's certainly at that time in 2012ish was not. People are had a much more open attitude towards it, and the laws are very lenient at the time, comparatively speaking. In fact, this area, it's actually a little bit south of where Anchorage is renowned for its outdoor summertime strains. You may have heard of Matanuska Thunderfuck or whatever, but yeah, a lot of weed culture up here in Alaska, which may or may not enjoy.
His luggage
he
stayed
made
here.
his flight there, but it was too late for them to get his luggage, so he just took a carry-on and asked me to go pick up his bag for him.
Gotcha. And there was a pistol checked in the bag.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did he check that through TSA?
Well, I don't think he actually ended up checking it the first time he flew, because that's, I think, when he wanted me to pick it up.
Why was he taking pistol with him back to Texas?
He'd leave it at his mom's house because he's moving out and he can't drive it through Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said he was going to take it back and leave it there since he couldn't drive it through.
Okay. So was he moving out?
Yeah, he's going to move out this summer.
Okay.
What she was referring to there, and I feel like I need to always make a point of clearing up these things that are unique to Alaska that might not have context for people outside, is that you can't drive from Alaska to the contiguous United States directly. You have to pass through Canada. You can if you get on a ferry down here in Southeast Alaska with your car, which is a whole involved process. And then you sail to maybe Seattle, or even then a lot of times you're going to be going to a Canadian port, so you have to drive through Canada. And so that's what the discussion was, is you can't drive from Alaska to down south without passing through Canada, which was an issue if you have guns. So that's hopefully clears that up.
Where's the gun now?
The black case, I think, is up in my room. I can show you exactly where it is. Yeah.
And it's got how many pistols in it?
Two little.
When you say a black case,
Or at least that's what it had when he asked me to pick it
like
up.
a lockable metal box, or is that what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And where in the room?
Just upstairs in the corner by a laundry basket is where the black case is. I mean, I think there's still guns in it, but I still am being honest with you that I honestly don't remember ever him acting like he was on meth or anything, and I've never seen him use that or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Honest, I don't.
So when he left last week, was that when he was late and you had to go and pick up his bag for him?
No, that was when he flew the first time.
Okay, so last week he got on the flight just fine. He had plenty of time. Okay, and you think that he flew to Houston?
No, he flew to Vegas the second time because he said that the flights were too expensive to Houston because of spring break. So he picked up a car and then he went to check the Grand Canyon and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he flew to Vegas, is what he told me.
So I think this is where the next time starts. Yeah, Marissa, I mean, all credit to you. I really appreciate the info. And if anybody else that's watching now or in the future has any material, that would be really helpful. I think one of the things I've really learned in doing these types of streams, I've done a lot of streams before, but it's usually interviewing other people, which I also really enjoy and would like to set up for the future. But I've never just watched stuff in a stream all the way through before, and I don't know, it really helped orient me in terms of how to better prepare for these, because I think that this stream was a billion times more interesting than the first two, which were pretty uneventful interrogation footage stuff. So I think the selection of material and the screening and preparation is obviously pretty important, and it's really helpful when somebody so knowledgeable in the case like Marissa has already done the legwork. So yeah, man, I can't wait. I'll be posting a few days ahead of time for when the next stream is, when we'll finish watching this, although we still have 2+ hours left, 2.5 hours plus of this to go through. So I might again sort of take a look at what might be some of the more interesting areas to look at. I sort of have this sort of completist binary attitude where I want to just do everything, but I don't think that is going to really be feasible for streams, or at least interesting. So I think I need to be more selective. And I'm not going to stream for like 10,000 hours on this case. It's just not possible. But yeah, the more I look into this case, the more it fascinates me, which is always, I think, a real sign that you found an interesting thing to cover. And I'll be working on my Mindhunter Israel Keys video over the next few days. I'm really trying to get that squared away as much as possible, so I can focus on other stuff, because there's always more interesting things to dig into. So I think we're going to leave it for now. I really, again, thanks to Marissa and thanks to everybody that's following along. And we'll be doing another stream next Sunday, and maybe we'll add another day here in the near future, but I just need to figure that out. So watch this space, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks.